Manalords explodes onto Steam. Turns out Stellar Blade just ain't sexy enough, and the least self-aware recruitment campaign of all time. I'm Ash Dixon and this is GINX News. It very much seems that 2024 is the year of niche breakout hits. It started with Palworld, followed by Helldivers 2, and now it's Manalords that's exploded onto the scene. After being the most wishlisted game on Steam, Manalords has catapulted to the top of the charts over the weekend. It peaked at over 170,000 players and has sold over 1 million copies so far. In fact, that's the highest player count of any strategy game ever on Steam, a rather incredible milestone for a game developed by one person. Though for clarity, he has outsourced some stuff here and there. And some people may be rather confused at how a medieval city builder could prove so popular, but the truth is, fans of the genre are hungry for a new quality game, and you only have to look at Stronghold and Age of Empires to know that people love that medieval setting. Now, there is a risk that the game is a victim of its own success. It's still in early access, it's made by just one dude, and it's taken the game 7 years to get to this point. Future progress is likely going to be very slow, and there's a good chance that a portion of those people won't be fully happy with their purchase. The creator is very active in engaging with the community, however, so hopefully that quells any uprisings. Still, from what I can see, I don't think Manalords is doing anything revolutionary. I think it's more of a case of a very solid game appearing in the right place at the right time. If you do want to learn more about it though, I definitely recommend hitting up Willis's review over on our GINX Docs channel. And I want to know what you think too. Have you played it and is it worth the hype? Let us know down in the comments. The other big release of the weekend was Stellar Blade, and despite the controversy surrounding the game, ultimately the reviews have been pretty damn glowing. Fluid, exhilarating combat, glorious visuals, steady, and a surprisingly entertaining fishing minigame. But it's not without its flaws. There's dull cutscenes with jarring voice work, and well, according to some, Eve's outfits just ain't damn sexy enough. Tens of thousands of gamers are demanding refunds and boycotts of Stellar Blade over the hero Eve not having sexy enough outfits. Which may surprise you considering the whole marketing of this thing relied on the word of mouth of gooners salivating over the over-sexualized female protagonist. But you see, developers ShiftUp pulled the old bait and switch, and the day one patch involved some of those spicy outfits being a little less spicy. And despite Eve still looking hot AF, boy are some people angry. So much so that this petition to quote, "free Stellar Blade" has nearly 50,000 signatures and has accompanying video messages from these disgruntled fans demanding boycotts and refunds. And look, I don't personally understand being this upset about this censorship. The gameplay, the story, everything else is still the same. And of all the shitty business practices that exist in gaming right now, it baffles me that this is what you choose to take a stand against. But as much as I don't relate to these dudes, they do still have a point. We all saw the trailers, we all saw how revealing those outfits were. And a lot of people bought this game for that reason. And ultimately, they've now been sold a lie, especially as it's not just the outfits, but the gore has also been censored. Now, the director of the game was directly asked about this, to which he gave a rather unconvincing spiel that these patched outfits were always the intended final product. A lot of people think this is actually publisher Sony putting their foot down. Now, if you bought a physical copy of Stellar Blade, you do have the option to not update the game, and you can enjoy those outfits in their full glory. And those who have done that are now flooding the Stellar Blade subreddit with cleavage shots and upskirts, which is only making everyone else all the more salty on what they're missing out on. There's also this frustration that games like Baldur's Gate 3 can have full nudity, but Stellar Blade can't. But one, Baldur's Gate 3 isn't published by Sony, and two, the sexuality of those characters is just one part of their nuanced personalities and backstories. Stellar Blade's Eve exists purely for the sexual gratification of its players. Now, saying whether that's a good thing or a bad thing is a whole other conversation, but let's just not pretend they're the same thing. Either way, censorship or not, players are still finding ways to thirst over Eve. So what do you think? Are these players right to be upset? Should ShiftUp U-turn on the censorship? Do let us know in the comments. Helldivers 2 is being used in quite possibly the most unself-aware recruitment technique of all time, and the sad truth is, it might even work. Here's a short clip thanks to Twitter user @Zizix.
sick, Helldivers. Oh, where's the booth at? What the hell?
Now, before we all start throwing eggs at the local recruiter, we should mention that the booth was at the Level Up Expo in Las Vegas to promote the US Army esports team, not the Army. But saying that, the esports team is recruitment in itself, so recruiting via recruitment is, surprise, still recruitment. And yes, they're missing the whole point that Helldivers is a satire about imperialism. Pretty much everyone who replied to Zyzix's thread was well aware of the irony. I mean, how could you not be? But not everyone gets that it's satire, and those who don't can easily be drawn into this kind of marketing. The impressionable, the impoverished, the uneducated, it's recruitment 101. And it's not the first time the US Army have done this with their non-too-subtle ads that look something straight out of a Call of Duty trailer. So let's not pretend that this is about esports or gaming. There's already recruitment propaganda in movies and on TikTok, and they've been turning up at high school since way before I was born, so I know I shouldn't really be surprised. And while we live in the reality that militaries exist and they need bodies to keep the cogs turning, do they really need to turn up to gaming conventions now? I know so many people who use games as an escape from life's bullshit, and this kind of insidious recruitment just doesn't sit right with me. And while you're here, why not instead sign up to GINX Plus, where your dreams can become a reality and you can take your gaming experience to the next level. Join now to be all that you can be. It's time for the Quickfire Round, and we're going to start with Meta, which seemingly had a good financial quarter, $36.5 billion in revenue good, to be precise. But Reality Labs, which is their VR and AR division, is apparently losing around $1 billion every month. Now, Meta have been saying themselves that they expect this to continue and that those losses will actually continue to grow, that this is a long-term plan. But with Apple's Vision Pro bombing and the PSVR 2 sales falling every quarter since its launch, it might be time for old Zuckerberg to take the loss and move on. One company that isn't dipping into the chasm of VR is Nintendo, and they're busy developing the Nintendo Switch 2. According to Spanish outlet Vandal, who get the exclusive scoop, the Switch 2 Joy-Cons will stick to the console magnetically, somehow, because let's be honest, no one knows how magnets work. They claim that the new console will also be bigger than the Switch and that it will be compatible with the current Switch Pro controllers, but not the old Joy-Cons, which would suck to hear if they weren't all unusable due to stick drift. And finally, someone has reached the Vanquisher rank in Tekken using a bot that spams only one button. That's right, by picking Eddie, repeatedly spamming 3, you too can be better than over 40% of the game's player base. Props to Twitch streamer Jim Mishima, see what you did there, for giving new life to this age-old strat of annoying people who actually play fighting games. Other buttons you can mash include the like and subscribe buttons here on YouTube. We'll see you on Wednesday.